Hey, welcome back to Home Studio Pro, and maybe you clicked on this video because you're like a lot of people out there these days, setting up your home studio environment, but realizing there's a lot of decisions, there's a lot of equipment to be purchased. What do you do first? What do you do next? What's the priority? And I've tried to narrow things down to 4 big factors, which I will present for you momentarily. I'll try and give you in order how exactly I would go about this. But to summarize, so many decisions. A microphone, a camera, a computer, maybe a better computer than the one you already have. Lighting, which is something that most people don't have or don't even know how to modify in their home environment. How about software? Will you be using Ecamm or OBS? Will you be using an encoder, something like the A10 Mini Pro, which is sitting right in front of me? Again, tons of decisions, costly ones, timely ones. Where do you even start with all of this? So I've narrowed it down to my top priorities, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And yes, in this order. Believe it or not, number 1 has little to do with technology. It's all about the recording space, the environment that you're in. Number 2 is lighting, which is also really less about technology. Believe it or not, 3 and 4, the last 2, are mostly tech heavy, with the audio first, followed by the video. So let's begin with number 1, the space. What do I mean by that? Well, a couple different things. The background. What's behind me? Is it too much? Is it distracting? Is it controllable in a sense that sun and shade and shadows or people behind me or distractions behind me, will they be changing? Do I have complete control over what I can't even see that's behind me right now? Space and angles. Now, as you can tell here in the home studio, I'm using kind of the corner of a room. 2 walls that come together precisely right behind me. But how will you use your space? Do you have a small space? Is your space way too big? Can you make a really big space feel a lot more small and intimate with partitions, with angling of the camera? How do you use this? And we'll talk about optimal ways in just a second. But what you're trying to do with your space is make it look inviting. You don't want something that's, again, distracting or fatiguing on the eyes, or something that offers more questions than just focus and attention that you're trying to draw to either yourself or a subject or the content or topic at hand. I'm also here to say that optimally your space in a YouTube studio or a home studio like this should be repeatable. Now, I've got another video about optimizing your home studio, your always ready home studio. Push a couple buttons, don't move anything. It's so much easier to leave your equipment be in the home studio instead of setting up and striking every single time you make a video or you do a live stream. But repeatable is nice. How can you make your environment, always just look like this? I walk in the room, push a couple buttons, sit down, the chair's at the right height, the camera's pointing right at me, no adjustments. I just rock and roll with making the video. So how can you make it repeatable? How can you also make it comfortable? I mean, think about yourself. If you're the person who's going to be using this home studio, here I am in this same spot, which I've been for hundreds of hours across the last several years. Make it inviting for yourself too, not just your viewer, but make it ergonomic. Can I reach everything here? Do I have to twist too far to get to something? Do I have to go off camera if I need to reach something? How can you make it friendly for yourself or whoever, the presenter and performer, to make it comfortable? So your space, super important before anything and everything else, because your space leads to lighting and optimal audio and video. But speaking of lighting, a couple different ways you could go about this. Now, here in my studio, here in this room, all the windows, there's 1, 2, 3 different windows. They are all blacked out. Curtains, moving blankets covering all the walls. There's no natural light that ever comes in this room. Why? Because I don't want it to affect my recording. I'd like to come in here at 6 in the morning if I need to, 6 at night, noon, midnight, you name it, all hours of the day I can come in here. And again, it's repeatable. It's always going to look the same. So I'm using all bulb lighting, actually LEDs, to be quite honest with you, but I'm not using natural light. You do need to be careful. If you're just using natural light, like sun coming through the window, that sun and that lighting is changing constantly throughout the course of a day. I'm also looking to be evenly lit. Now I've got a key light, I've got a fill light over here, I've got 2 hair lights. You can see this side of my head is a little bit cooler. This side's a little bit warmer. Yeah, there's lights above me shooting down just to light my hair. There's lights that are up lights on the walls behind me. There's those LEDs. This side right here. See that little ribbon color moving this way? So I've got a lot going in a sense of lighting. This is all very advanced. The most basic thing is that you want your subject to be evenly lit. There's not a bunch of huge shadows on my face. If I were to, cover half my face right now and had that weird shadow, that would look quite weird, right? So evenly lit as best you could do, either with natural light or with bulb lights, one or the other. Make it complementary. Spend some time on your lighting. If you're watching a video, it's going to be so distracting that you can't see half the person's face because it's overexposed or it's really bright on one side and shaded on the other. Some people do prefer soft lighting, either because of a softbox or because the lighting is not like 2 inches away from their face. Yes, it matters. There's a balance of distance and lighting intensity that's best for you. Close distance, high intensity, probably not the best. Farther distance, higher intensity, okay, pretty good. Farther distance, minimal intensity, it's not going to have the desired effect. All of that is a balance that can help you make it soft. Also, diffusion on a lighting, which you can look that up separately. Diffusion on a lighting source is going to greatly help not have hard lighting on somebody's face. What is hard lighting? Wish I had a flashlight here right now. Hard lighting, imagine shining a flashlight on my face. Very pointed, very focused. That's hard lighting. That's what you want to avoid in making a video. But experiment, right? You don't even have to be an expert at this. Give yourself some time first in your space. Get comfortable in your space. Then work on the lighting. Move some lights around. Don't just plop one here, plop one there, and think, that's it, we're done. Experiment. What happens if I move this closer? What happens if I move it 6 inches to the left or right, and then I alter this? Please experiment with your lighting. It takes a lot of time to properly light something, even for the experts. Okay, now we're actually getting into the X's and O's here, the audio and video of your priorities here. Definitely work on your audio before your video. I say that because no matter how good this studio looks, right? If my audio was like this the entire time, how long do you think you would be listening to this video? I'm pretty sure, seriously, like if it sounded like this or if it sounded like this, you would probably have given up on this video a long time ago. Man, that's distracting. That is really, really distracting. Okay, enough of that, right? But if it sounded like that, I can't watch this. No matter how good this video looks, people are actually a lot more forgiving about lesser quality video. It doesn't have to be in pristine HD so long as they can hear it. So how do we make your audio sound good? Number one, the acoustics of the room. Now this little room right here, totally treated. I've got sound panels that absorb all the echoes and reverberations. Basically, when I talk, my voice hits that wall, but that sound panel captures it. It doesn't reflect off of all the walls and then come back in the mic so that it sounds something similar to this. So like if I was in an empty bathroom right now, this is how it would sound. I'm of course simulating reverberation, but we've all heard this, like a tall ceiling room, a high ceiling room, a tile floor room, a hardwood floor, an empty room. It's going to sound like this. Give yourself the benefit of good acoustics so that the microphone, no matter how good or bad the quality is, it doesn't have to fight all of that reverberation. How do you cut it down? Put up sound blankets behind you, in front of you, off camera, wherever you can. You're trying for soft surfaces that absorb sound. Mic technique, also a huge part of your audio. I'm usually about this distance away. Hang loose from a condenser mic. Now, if I was on a dynamic like the SM7B or the RE20, I'm probably like this distance away. So that's like half the hang loose distance, right? I just have to work this one a lot closer. But this mic, I know how it is, hang loose distance away. But mic technique is super important because this Neumann U87AI, like really great mic. But how does it sound when I'm not using it properly because it's now a foot away and facing the wrong way? And I've got compression and stuff on there, so it's even going to fix it. But that sounds horrible if not used properly. Mic technique, very important. Don't just clip on a mic like halfway down your shirt. Put it up, put a lavalier here. Put your condenser mic right here. A dynamic mic, don't speak 2 feet away from it. It's got to be close to you depending on the microphone you're using and what it was designed for. Signal chain, do you want any processing on this? Of course, I've got EQ, compression, I've got a little expansion. That's more for an advanced situation, but that's a possibility with a lot of interfaces. What are you aiming for here the most with audio? 2 things: clarity and something that's not fatiguing. Clarity in a sense that you can hear every word I'm saying. It's not muffled. It's not overly boosted on the high or low end, and not fatiguing where, yeah, it's pleasing to the ears. There's not that, again, that echo, that reverberation. All of this stuff makes audio fatiguing to listen to over a long period of time. So that's what you're shooting for: clarity and something that's not fatiguing. If that's what you want to aim for first in audio, that's a great start. Okay, last, and not exactly least, like this is important, but video is usually the most forgiving. I mean, I'm shooting this right now, this video on a Canon 6D full frame DSLR camera. It's not even the newest. I mehave there's bigger and better and greater cameras out there. So even my video here, it's really good, I think, but it's definitely not the best. And even if I have a webcam up there, even if I were shooting this with a webcam or something lesser, like even a GoPro, okay, as long as it's in focus and a couple different things here, the shot is framed well, like I'm not off center or I'm not, way down here in the frame, or my head's not cut off by the frame. So long as you have the basics, people will forgive maybe your video imaging quality. Shot framing, exposure is important, right? So we talk about the lighting. Well, there's distance with the lighting, there's intensity with the lighting, but there's also the camera settings. What's the exposure set to? Are you under or overexposed? What if there's something hot and I say overexposed or lesser exposed in your background of your shot? How do you manage for that in the background? How do you adjust your camera appropriately? Also, do you have the right color temperature for your color balance? Is it looking too blue? Is it looking too green? Are the colors off? Depth of field. Focal range, essentially, and I've got it pretty narrow here so that if I get closer, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, I'll go out of focus. If I sit back here, look, you can tell my face is out of focus. My hand way back here, now out of focus. But watch as it comes closer here, right about there, in focus, and then it's going to get out of focus as it gets closer. My lens is on a manual setting right now. It's not even auto-focusing. I'm doing that on purpose. But your depth of field, in my case, it's super shallow. Do you want that? If you're not auto-focusing, I don't know if you want that. If your camera doesn't have auto-focusing, you may not want to do that if you're moving around a bunch. You want to make sure you stay in focus. And then just consistent, right? Again, with your background, with your setup, with your home studio, you're looking for a consistent look. You're looking for a shot that's framed properly. Maybe the lens is somewhere centered up, maybe with my forehead. It's ever so slightly shooting down on me, but something consistent video after video. I think that's optimal as you talk about these 4 big factors and fundamentals. So hopefully that helped you out. Hopefully that gave you a little motivation as well as inspiration and maybe some tips from behind the scenes. If you've got any questions, reach out to me in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get back to you. Also, thumbs up on this video if it provided you some value. And don't forget, subscribe to Home Studio Pro. Lots more great stuff coming out real soon.